As many as of that opinion will say content. Contrary not content. The contents have it. After Clause 120, Amendment 284, Lord Moylan.
My Lords, may I start by declaring my interest as a member of the board of the Ebbsfleet Development Corporation. My Lords, designation as an NSIP, a nationally significant infrastructure project, has a blighting effect. It differs, however, from a normal planning permission in that the government becomes something akin to a co-partner in a project that is designated an NSIP, supporting it because of its national significance. But what responsibilities fall on the government as a result of this co-partnership, this sponsorship, this promotion of a particular project? In particular, what obligations fall on the government to avoid or to mitigate any persistent blight that might ensue? Now, an egregious example is the expansion of Heathrow Airport. Noble Lords may not know that I have been a long-standing, over 10 years, opponent of the expansion of Heathrow Airport. More importantly, not only do I oppose it, I think it's unworkable and undeliverable. It involves either moving the M25 or building a motorway, building a runway over the M25. Its cost would exceed 18 billion when the whole value of the airport is significantly less than that, the market value, and so on. But there it is. The status, the designated status, remains present for Heathrow Airport's expansion. And the blighting of the area, the effect it has on the surrounding villages, the effect it has on housing and on other land uses remains. An example from Ebbsfleet relates to the Swanscombe Peninsula. The Swanscombe Peninsula is a large triangle of land that, so to speak, protrudes into the Thames. It is within the red line of the Ebbsfleet Development Corporation as a planning authority. The corporation doesn't own it. Proposals for a privately funded resort of the character of a Disneyland or whatever were given nationally significant infrastructure project status as long ago as 2014. Very slowly, the company promoting it advanced to a position in 2021 of being able to submit a DCO. In the meantime, they suffered the bolt from the blue of Natural England turning up out of nowhere, or more specifically out of Ebbsfleet International Railway Station, and designating it a site of scientific interest. This ability of Natural England to appear out of nowhere and designate sites as SSSIs at the same time as their nationally significant infrastructure projects is something that is worth exploring in a different debate. And the DCO was rejected by the planning inspectors for not having, amongst other things, not having a transport plan attached to it, a point that had been made repeatedly to them by the corporation in its role as planning authority. And recently the company went into liquidation, I read in the newspapers. But the blight on the land and on the existing, there aren't very many, but there are existing industrial occupants on the land, continues. Now, I do not mean by this, my lords, any criticism at all of the developer. And I do not regard their failure to deliver the project, at least to date, as a criticism of them, because the private sector inherently, in private sector projects, inherently involve the taking of risk. And it's right that we have an economy where risk is taken. And one of the corollaries of taking risk is that not all businesses and not all projects succeed. So the fact that they have not succeeded is not a criticism of them. That is not my point. But my point is to ask is where is the minister in all of this? Where is the department? that has agreed to the designation all of 9 years ago. Now, it's true that the Minister has written recently to the company asking them for plans on their progress, but since the company is in administration, I'm not sure what answer he expects to get. But apart from that, it's very hard to see how the government has engaged with furthering this project, which it regards as nationally significant. My amendment is intended, it's a very gentle amendment. It places very little obligation on the government, but it does require them, after 3 years after designating an NSIP, it does require them to review progress. That's all, to review progress, and annually thereafter, with a view to seeing if the project is actually going to be delivered. And then, of course, it says the Secretary of State may decide to cancel the designation. Now, that power to cancel already exists. In the existing legislation, it's the Planning Act 2008 as amended. The power to cancel already exists. So that is, I'm not conferring a new power, but I'm simply implying that he should consider it as he or she should consider it as the result of a review of progress. I think at least that would show that the government did share a responsibility for the progress of projects which they themselves have designated nationally significant, and would help to mitigate the blight that in effect they cause by showing that degree of engagement, review and possible cancellation. So I regard it as a very, very modest amendment, one that it would be very easy for my noble friend on the front bench simply to accept as drafted, and I look forward to her response and hope that that is indeed what she agrees to do.
Amendment proposed. After clause 120, insert the following new clause as printed on the Marshall